and job growth. Now, please help me welcome Jeff Hite to share insights on what's fueling Nashville's growth and what it means for the future of our industry. Thank you, Jeff.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Hey, before we get started, this is just random. It has nothing to do with today. I finished breakfast this morning and I was leaving, and the server said, "I got a question of the day." This is crazy. She said, "Think about this all day today," and I have ever since I dropped with it. Is blink the plural of wink? Exactly. What? Just think about that for a second. Just think about that for a second. Well, I've got some slides that I don't see yet, so we'll see. So while we're waiting on these slides to get, oh, there we go. Perfect. So again, Jeff Hite with the Nashville Area Chamber of Commerce. I oversee a team that travels the world promoting Nashville. Our goal is to create interest in Middle Tennessee for these companies to come and set up shop somewhere in the Nashville region. And more importantly, make sure that the companies that are here stay and grow and don't leave us for Denver, Austin, Charlotte, etc. So Jaron asked if I'd come back again and talk to the group. This is one of my favorite groups. Hey, Lisa. This is one of my favorite groups to talk to. So today I want to give a 10, 15-minute update on the regional economy and what's going on. And then Kathy and Paige are going to join me on stage, and we're going to kind of talk about corporate relocations and how that works and why, and how Alliance Bernstein ended up in Nashville. Look at that slide on the screen now. Just in 10 years, think about that. The growth of this area has been phenomenal. 70% of that skyline in 2025 today was built since 2014. So just a tremendous growth when you think what's going on. So when you think about the indicators that really indicate the health of an economy, you can see on the screen there, job growth, population growth, GDP growth, the cost of living. We'll talk a little bit about each of these, but really strong indicators on where an economy's headed, and Nashville's performing very well in all four. Whoops, there we go. Let's talk about job growth. Look at those numbers. Nashville's third among our competitors in job growth. We've had 123,000 jobs since February of 20. Think about that, 123,000 new jobs in this region since February 23. And you can see we rank behind Austin and Raleigh. We're constantly chasing Austin and Raleigh. Let's talk about population growth. Look at those numbers there. Just in the last year, we've added 36,000 people. That's 100 a day. And if you think about the last 10 years, we've added almost 340,000 people in Nashville. People want to be in this city. Whether you're a recent college grad in Chicago, a tourist in Nebraska, or a Silicon Valley company on the West Coast, people want to be in this city. And when you think about that company in Silicon Valley that's moving east, and let's say they're looking at Denver, Austin, Nashville, and Charlotte. That's who we routinely compete against. All of those cities' proposals are roughly going to be the same. Quality of life, cost of living, taxes, incentives, real estate, roughly all the same. It's the community that can make the talent pitch, the workforce solution that usually is going to win that project, right? And so when you think about talent, you can grow it, you can attract it, and you can retain it. This is the grow part, people moving here, that in-migration coming into Nashville, a critical piece to what's going on in Nashville. GDP growth, the output of this region, again, second in the country behind Austin. And if you look at that slide, look where we were in 2003, a little under $80 billion. Am I in your way for that picture? Sorry. And then look where we are today, $168 billion in just 20 years. You can see where everybody else is, but just phenomenal growth. Cost of living, let's talk about this. We are below the national average cost of living. Think about 100 being the national average. We're 1.3% below the national average. Now look at that 1, 2, 3, the third column over housing. See that 1014? So 100 being the national average or a little over the national average. Now, in 2019, that number was 97.4. So 6 years ago, we were below the national average. Everybody in this room knows. 2022, that number was 105.9. So it's dropping, getting a little more competitive. But you can see, again, but look above Nashville on that screen. Look who we're chasing. Charlotte, Atlanta, Austin, Tampa. Look at the housing costs for Charlotte. 78.1%. Almost 12% below the national average. The chamber, we took 140 business leaders to Charlotte 2 or 3 weeks ago and learned a lot about their housing solutions, but they've got a big advantage on us right now. But we asked Charlotte, what's the brand of Charlotte? And they just kind of stared at us like this. And they admitted, we really don't have a brand. Our brand may be a good value, but that's not a brand, right? So it's just interesting. We had a great time in Charlotte, but we're learning a lot from Charlotte on the housing costs. Population growth, we talked about that earlier. Let's get a little deeper. This map shows where the folks in Nashville in the region are moving to. You can see there, that light's in my eye right now, but Montgomery County and Rutherford County are 1 and 2. But you can see the darker green is the majority of the job growth in the Middle Tennessee area. So the University of Tennessee late last summer issued their population forecasts for the state, the regions, the counties. You can see that slide there. You know, we're forecasted to add almost 300,000 people in the next 10 years, almost 600,000 people over the next 20 years. I just listed Davidson and Williamson counties on there to give you an idea. But again, a lot of growth forecasted for this area. Here's our pipeline. So my team, these are companies that we are negotiating with somewhere in the region. Almost 50 projects if they all came in, which they will not, but it represents almost 11,000 jobs. But just to give you an idea of the pipeline that we have, again, companies that are looking at Middle Tennessee. Here's some recent announcements throughout the region. So good activity in the region. The core has to be strong for the region to thrive. So we've got a lot in Davidson County and the surrounding counties, but again, a lot of great activity for Middle Tennessee. We're excited about the future. And then, as I said, our team is on the road constantly. This week, Lori is in D.C., Carly's in New Orleans, Nolan is in Detroit. These are cities over the last year that we visited. Again, meeting with companies that may be headquartered here and have a branch in one of these cities or vice versa. Consultants, men and women that advise companies on where, when, and how to relocate and expand. We're just constantly on the road promoting Nashville. Our ultimate goal are to get people here, boots on the ground, and they can see it and taste it and touch it. They're hooked, right? But we're on the road a lot. And usually in those cities, we try to have some type of music event, right? So when I talked about Charlotte and the brand, our brand is music, right? The overall brand, but more importantly, that creative energy behind music, that's kind of a magnet for talent. It touches everything. So we try to use music in everything we do. The bottom right, I love that we took a group to New York, and I love the Statue of Liberty holding that guitar. That's just one of my favorite things. And when you think about it, the book Climbing the Charts by Angie Lawless, I mentioned this last year. She mentioned these 3 pieces for Nashville, and I use it all the time. And when you think about that creative culture we just talked about, it affects everything. It's a magnet for talent. There are only a handful of cities in this country where someone will sell everything they have and drive to that city to make their dreams come true: New York, L.A., and Nashville. So that creative culture is really big for us. Secondly, when you think about smart politics, we've had the right people at the right time, both on the state, local, and regional level. So we've had really smart politics. And then lastly, listen, the diversity of our economy is one of our strongest strengths, right? We don't experience the peaks and valleys. We're not heavily weighted in one particular sector. Healthcare is the largest employer. Advanced manufacturing has the largest economic impact. Music and entertainment, that's the brand, right? The music industry. Tourism, 17 million people visit Nashville annually. So that diversity of our economy really helps with keeping this Middle Tennessee region moving forward. And I'm going to end here on a quote. It looks like a lot. So Partnership 2030 is our regional economic development plan, right? It's a 5-year plan. It started in 1990. We just finished planning for the next 5-year plan. We'll unveil that plan on June 17th. But in doing all of the work to prepare for that plan, we had an investor with this quote, and I love this quote. The central metaphor for Los Angeles is the star. And the question is, who's listed first when the credits roll? The central metaphor for Nashville is the band. People from all sorts of backgrounds come here to create something wonderful together that they can't create on their own. Nashville is a place where people bring their dreams and make them real in one community. That collaboration is key. All these companies from out of market that we talk to, one of the first things we tell them is anybody in Nashville will take your first call. You've got to earn the second one, but it's a very open, collaborative area. So remember that. And thank you for everything that you do. We appreciate that. I'm going to wrap up and now call Kathy and Paige to the stage, and we're going to chat for the next 30 minutes. Questions while they're coming up? Yes?
What was the pearl thing you mentioned at the very beginning? Do you know what something
No, she said it and walked out.
Oh, okay.
So is blank the plural of wink? That was the question, and she just walked away, and I thought about it the whole way. A wink is one, right? A blink's two. Is that anyway? I told you it's silly, but it got. Oh, I'm in the middle. Oh, okay. Plural, not pearl. Plural. I'm sorry, my accent. You got a microphone? Yes. You got a microphone? Here's one. There we go. Let me on. Well, while we're getting set up here, two of my friends, when Jaron called and said, "What are we going to do this year?" There you go.
I think mine's working.
Yours is.
Is yours working?
Perfect. So I thought, why don't we bring Kathy Spencer, who's the Chief People Officer for AllianceBernstein, and Paige Thompson, who's the VP of Relocation for Sightland, to kind of talk about the relocation process, how it works, what's going on. The three of us worked on the AllianceBernstein relocation in 2017 that was announced in 2018. At that time, you had roughly 1,100 employees in Manhattan.
Yes.
Ended up moving 225, 230 roughly.
Very good memory, yes.
Yeah.
Impressive relocation numbers.
Very. Because most relocations, that 8 to 10% make the move. You want to get a good group to come down and set the culture. Hey. And then, but you're a little higher than that. Your numbers are a little higher than that. And what was remarkable about AllianceBernstein is that's a financial services firm born and raised in Manhattan. And when you made the announcement that you're leaving and going to a city other than Chicago, Atlanta, Dallas, San Francisco, Charlotte, it was Nashville. So we're excited. So thank you. So we all worked together for probably a little over a year on that secret down low relocation. So Kathy, I'm going to start with you.
Sure.
When your company or a company has made the decision to relocate, when do you engage the real estate piece?
Yeah, I think that when we look back on the experience of leaving New York and making a decision to move our corporate headquarters, I don't think that we could have anticipated the incredible importance of the partnership that we had with Paige and her organization, Sightland Sotheby's. We engaged with them before we even made a decision to come to Nashville, because in our process, we were looking at a lot of cities, and we were looking at a lot of cities that the decision-making team really knew nothing about. And so we needed to find a partner locally who we could build a trusting relationship with and could work with us as, really an anonymous organization, because we were at that point, to learn about a city when we were embarking on one of the most scary professional events of our lives. We made a decision to leave New York, partially because of a real estate decision that we were coming upon with our New York headquarters, but also because we wanted to start anew, and we wanted to have the chance to go to a place and refresh our culture and look at different talent pools and just reinvent a bit. So we needed to partner with an organization that could help us think through that process and stick with us for the long haul. So that relationship really kicked off immediately. And I think another reason that it was so important for us to engage so early is that we recognized that in order to rebuild our organization, we were going to have some migration from New York. And we heard from our workforce that if we left New York, we were going to have to replicate their homes wherever we went. And the word homes is kind of a broad scope of things. But we were going to have to replicate the house or apartment they lived in, the schools they used, the church they attended. We were going to have to find it all. And so it was really critical that we worked with an organization that could help us vet that city by city. And that's why it was one of the first relationships we developed after Jeff and his team.
You know, it probably wasn't until the third visit that we even knew who they were. It was, I think, Project Stella. We had the code name. Mm-hmm. We weren't sure who they were until the third visit. And when you talked about the folks moving down, you know, Alliance Bernstein went probably 7 layers deeper than any other company that we've worked with. There was a 2.5-day period in late 17 where the C-suite came down, and we spent 2.5 days, and we went to every mosque, temple, Baptist church, Catholic church, met with the LGBTQ chamber, the African American chamber, Hispanic chamber. I mean, they really went, so they wanted to go back, and if a woman said, they wanted to go back, and if an employee said, listen, I'm thinking about Nashville, but I'm Hindu, how do I fit in? Well, we were at the temple, let me explain it. So they went really deep to make sure, because this is Jeff's opinion, not you. I think culture was the biggest piece coming from Manhattan to Nashville, is how do we make that culture fit? Paige, over to you now. How do you work that experience? How you know, when you're working with these potential relocations, individuals from a city like New York, how do you work with that individual and make it easy and fun and not intimidating?
Well, I think you hit on it. It's really learning more about the company culture and how to make sure that that first visit aligns with the company culture and also the directives of the company and what their objectives are. Every company has a different reason for relocating. And so, you know, as a relocation department and truly as you all as real estate professionals, we are typically the first local point of contact. So we really set the tone for the entire transaction and experience. And so since we're at Trevecca, I'm going to share this personal story. I'm a proud mom of 2 children. My 22-year-old is graduating tomorrow from University of Tennessee, Knoxville. Yes. And then my daughter just completed her freshman year, but as she was a senior and we were going through all of these different college tours, you know, we started with her top and went down to maybe her least top. And so we got to her least top, which actually was University of Tennessee, Knoxville. And the tour guide knocked it out of the park. And you realize, if you all have kids who are tour guides at universities, their job is super important because they set the expectation. And what made this tour guide so great at Knoxville is he engaged with everyone on the tour to find out, in particular, like, what do you want to major in? I mean, they're high school seniors, half of them didn't know, but then he pivoted to, well, what type of extracurricular activities do you like? And so as we went through the tour at UT, he pointed out each of those things and kept them in the back of his mind. So every person on that tour felt like they were being represented. And so Now, my daughter thought the tour guide was cute, so that didn't hurt. However, but it just went to show us, it showed us that, that's all of us in this room. When someone, a company, an employee, an individual, when they're coming, we are really the first point of contact other than their employer. So, leading with listening and questions and really diving deep into not only what the company wants to garner from their experience, but also each individual employee.
Kathy, we know when a company makes a decision to relocate. Tax environment, business environment, all of those boxes have to be checked. For the folks that are going to relocate, how important is housing?
I mean, housing was incredibly important to people on a variety of fronts. I think that our staff that were engaged in moving with us, and as Jeff mentioned, we got a very, very high migration rate of staff that did come with us to Nashville. And I do always like to mention that we have had very, very minimal amount of staff who have not stayed with us since the relocation began in 2018. But housing was important on a couple different fronts. First of all, a lot of people were saying this was an opportunity to have a house for the first time. And we had a lot of staff that relocated that actually became first-time homeowners by moving. Additionally, people with children were very focused on school systems and housing that was in locations where the school systems would be equivalent to what they were experiencing in New York. Now, I remember when we came down here and we met with all the school systems when we came down here, and we were very overwhelmed that the schools here were actually, certainly several of them in many of the counties, much better than New York. So housing was very important to people with children. And also, there was a whole change for our workforce around commuting to work. And they, many of the people that moved with us were very focused on that lifestyle change. We spent, I think, 6 months tracking traffic patterns on a road called I-65. We didn't even know what it was. We don't even know where this road is. And I had someone on my team tracking the traffic there for months, because we were trying to figure out how much housing would we need that would mitigate the commuting challenges people were facing coming into New York. We also did a zip code analysis in New York and found that our average employee was commuting 1 hour and 42 minutes door to door every day. That's when everyone was in the office 5 days a week. So we really wanted to mitigate the commuting times, but we needed to make sure there were housing solutions that could meet those needs. But a very diverse population moving, single people who wanted apartments, first-time home buyers, people who wanted to upgrade, people who wanted to cut commutes. So housing became, a real focus for us when we were selecting the city.
Paige, talk about the process when someone's coming in from a market that's much cheaper than Nashville or a market that's more expensive than Nashville. How do you manage those expectations?
So for those of you that maybe don't have a relocation department at your firm, I just kind of want to explain a little bit about what we do. So we have a relocation department, a team of 3. And so really our job is to counsel with each employee as they come into our marketplace, learn more about their needs, and then we match them with one of our realtors based on our conversation. Kathy refers to us as like the matchmaker, but we're a matchmaker and kind of like human resources in a way. So, it's really difficult sometimes when due to affordability or inventory. So what we do is we really try to learn about where they're coming from, and what do they like about their lifestyle now, what do they wish they had, their needs, their wants. A big market shift can not only bring sticker shock, but also cultural shock, like Kathy alluded to. Coming, from New York to here is a big cultural difference. So really, it's helping compare them apples to oranges and having empathy and grace, and showing them what a similar lifestyle can look like in this market, but not being so focused on the home itself, the square footage, really more about the overall lifestyle, because sometimes if there's an affordability issue, it's going to be a give and take, and it's helping them process through that give and take. I think sometimes it's easy to focus on, whoa, they're coming from this amount of square footage and this lot size, when really it needs to be a full picture of the lifestyle overall. And I think it's shifting away the conversation from comparing price, size, and features and not having them focus on what they're losing, but what they're gaining. And sometimes too, I know everyone loves to hear this, but sometimes it might be a recommendation of, hey, why don't you go into temporary housing or a rental for just a little while? If it's a need to get their credit score better or something like that, it buys them a little more time to learn the area. We love to say renters are buyers in waiting. And it gives them a little more time and flexibility to learn the area, and also offers an alternative to not feeling that pressure of, I've got to duplicate this lifestyle in a short amount of time. So I think, too, offering creative purchase options like builder incentives, mortgage rate buy downs, just trying to really guide them is so key. And again, I think it's really shifting their mindset, not to what am I losing, but what am I gaining, and how will this pay over time?
That's great. Thank you.
Oh, let me say one other thing too. Sorry. Also too, comparing the cost of living. Through the Sotheby's network, we have excellent tools regarding data and things like that we can provide to our clients. And it's explaining that data, not just delivering that data to them, because every market is so different. So I really think that's helpful. I think, cost of living comparison that Jeff showing them, yes, the housing may be more expensive here, but really our groceries might be a little bit cheaper than where you're coming from. You would be surprised how many people get excited about our wheel tax and our license tags. I mean, because we're a lot lower than a lot of other states. So, pointing out those little things that maybe is not so centric on the house itself, but surround the lifestyle itself.
And the no state income tax is big.
Yes,
Yes.
everyone,
Yeah,
yes,
that's
everyone loves
a
that.
quick raise.
Yes.
Kathy, how do you involve your real estate partner in information tours, how do you pull Paige into the process of explaining to your employees the different options about not only real estate, but the city in general?
Yeah, look, I'll be honest, it's a miracle they still talk to me. We over-involved them. They were so committed to us, and we absorbed so much of their time in the process of working on educating our staff around the opportunity in moving to Nashville. So as Jeff mentioned, before we decided on the city, and we looked at 20 different cities and then did a narrowing down process, and then did come and spend 2.5 days here at the end of 2017 on a bus for many hours going throughout the entire area. So, that was the beginning of the education process, because it was really educating the senior leaders first. Because when it came down to the end, we actually did vote on the city. And so we were all very focused on, making the right decision for our firm. And we had concerns around a lot of different markets we looked at. And here in Nashville, it was the fact that, there weren't other established financial services firms here, and we knew we were going to have to rebuild our firm. So that was the beginning of our time spent together from an education perspective with Paige and her broader team. And after we made the decision and were leading up to announcing our selection of Nashville in May of 2018, we continued to have conversations with her team and the broader team at Zeitlin Sotheby's about learning and educating on the city. We then did a significant event in New York called Next Stop Nashville. which was open to all of our staff in New York who were considering relocating. One thing that we did, which is different than a lot of organizations, anyone who wanted to move could move. So we didn't really close the door on anyone. So we really had a lot of engagement in New York and did a significant event in an evening with lots of different speakers and lots of different entertainment from Nashville, and also senior leadership from the city as well, and the state came as well. So that was our next step. And then the next big thing we embarked on was our first look tours. And we did look tours with employees that were interested in their spouses or partners for all of the summer of 2018 and all of the summer of 2019. We customized those tours. We did city living tours. We did meet the suburbs tours. We did schools tours. We did culture and community tours, all customized in partnership with Paige over the many years of really helping us also navigate relationships we needed here. If we're going to do a schools tour, we need to get a representation from private schools in Davidson County and the public schools outside of Metro Nashville. And we didn't have all of those relationships. So this partnership was the conduit for us being able to frame out those experiences for our staff. And Paige and all of her colleagues spent endless hours on tour buses with us on a route that we probably have memorized at this point and could do in our sleep. But it made a difference. And we had a 38% migration rate from New York, which is pretty unbelievable. And pockets of our organization that we might have thought were going to be hesitant to move or would be disruptive to move, they've moved and they've stayed. So it was all well worth it.
Yeah, some of those weekends, well, let me back up. Every employee had a spouse or family member or friend come with them, not just the employee. So they did that. That was great. And we had those 3 or 4 weekends where you had 30 or 40, 50 people each time. So it was a great. And then we spent some time in New York, kind of set up a Nashville room, a Tennessee room in New York to make sure that we answered all of the questions. Back to you. Folks are in town. You may have some that dual income, accessibility issues. How do you handle those type of issues that pop up that aren't just the normal, I need this house and let's roll?
Right. So, with dual career households, or, we're a connector. Our relocation department is a connector. And so, we try to connect people. So if we have a dual income or career household, we will do things like give them instructions on how to access job networks. We will sometimes we will take the resume and disseminate it to our other corporate clients. We have partners with career coaching that, if they have someone that's moving here that doesn't have a job and need a job. So, we have a lot of resources within our department, and if we don't, then we always try to, find a connection to where we can partner with someone to make sure.
Paige, that's very important because in some instances, if the spouse can't find a job, that relocation may not happen for that individual, right? So we've got to make sure that we connect all those dots.
Absolutely. And then as far as schools, we have a great relationship with the schools, so we'll do school tours. We will connect them directly or set up a meeting with the schools. We try to do a lot of legwork for the employee because, it's relocating is stressful, and we want to take that stress off of them as much as possible. So our department really tries to do that in conjunction with our realtors. And then, as far as accessibility and things like that, again, we just connect them with organizations that can really help them based on their individual needs. Our department, and we are not a one-size-fits-all. We are very much into customizing our services, and it's truly a team approach. We have Lisa DeBusk and Rebecca Zeitlin on my team. I work hand in hand with our CEO, Jessica Averbush. And really, our realtors are the workforce behind our department and the success of our department. I can't take credit for that. And so it's really a team approach to where we're making sure that we have a comprehensive approach to addressing not only the corporate clients' needs, but also each individual person that's relocating here. And so I think that's, and I'll have to say, I've been doing this 29 years and worked a lot of group moves over my span of the career. AllianceBernstein has by far been, I can't say my favorite, but
It's like kids, you have a favorite.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to. But.
I know. But just to see all of the thought that they put behind, making sure that this was going to be a good fit. I'd never had experience working to your credit, Kathy. I've never experienced working with a company. I mean, as Jeff said, we spent 2 days in Davidson County and surrounding counties because they wanted to make sure that their employees, when they moved here, were going to feel supported and part of the community. And so it was really a great experience and helpful for me as I go forward in working with other companies and corporations that might be relocating here.
I will say, one of your employees, the spouse of one of your employees, stumped me at lunch one day. Everybody in this room, we have to know a little about a lot, right? When you're selling a neighborhood, a community, a city, you've got to have a broad range. We were at lunch, and one of your employees, her spouse asked me, he said, "I'm a professional pool player. What's the billiard scene like in Nashville?" I had zero answer. But we got the information to him later, but it was just one of those, you never know what's going to come out of left field. Kathy, from an HR standpoint, how do you know if a relocation is successful?
Yeah, I mean, the way you framed this question to me, because I was thinking about it quite a bit, is what's the business perspective and human perspective?
That's good.
All right. And no, I was just so pleased when I thought through this answer because it just came so easily to me. And I would say from a business perspective, it's a little bit intangible when I relay this, but it's this feeling of, and with some measurable evidence, but not perfect measurability, of just things are more innovative here, we have fresh thinking, and we just found new ideas in running our business from starting again. I mean, we thought that was a goal that we could achieve when we moved, and you can't really measure it, but it just feels different in our corporate headquarters. And I do think that another place where we got great support from this partnership was making the decision of where to put our corporate headquarters and making the decision to go to Broadway and work with the developer on 5th and Broadway was such a good choice, even though we did give up the food trucks of Williamson County, which was a big debate for us. But they helped us make that decision. So I would say that that's one of the things that I can tell is a success. I think another huge piece, which people might not know, is that we had an unexpected high level of migration of front office roles. Our equity trading desk is in Nashville. 50% of our fixed income business is in Nashville. Our sales and marketing leadership for our distribution of our products is in Nashville, which is a huge statement around the business success. We have a thriving private wealth business here, which has really been, incredibly important to us. And then just this broad, refresh on culture. But from the human perspective, certainly, my responsibility in this move was the caretaking of every single person that was impacted by it. And that included people who moved and people who couldn't move or didn't want to move and what happened to them next. But I do think that when I look at the retention level of our first movers, the people who came in 2018, like our finance function and our risk function, and the fact that they're still here, but also our leadership team. Our chief operating officer is here, our CFO is here, our chief people officer is here, our general counsel is here, and the amount of senior talent that moved with us and has stayed. I think that has been a measure of human success. I think that I have rarely heard the commentary of, I want to go back to New York. I want to go back, I want to go back. It has not happened, which has been a really sound measure. And then the last thing I would say is the unbelievable interest and engagement in the community here, and the amount of people we have on nonprofit boards, and the amount of people we have doing pro bono work in the community, or our connection to our schools and our churches and our synagogues. And just seeing that connection, is a great measure for me. And I often tell people when I'm asked, when I talk about and think about and reflect on my own move here, is that, I didn't really know what it was like to be part of a community. I thought I was part of a community in New York, but I really wasn't until I got here. And I think that that's really what our workforce has found. And obviously that is, brings me the greatest joy as a chief people officer to see that our talent has really found that community here.
One of my favorite stories, probably my favorite. At the time, your COO was Jim Gingrich, who the move happened. He retired, fell in love with Nashville, and ran for mayor. Now, he wasn't successful in that, but he fell in love with this community, ran for mayor. He's now a big advocate for affordable housing. He was with us in Charlotte. So I just love that story that he was here, fell in love, and stayed. When we think about, well, first of all, did you say your migration rate was 38%? Okay, that's the second highest. Nissan North America, when they left LA in 2005, had 41%, and you're at 38%. So that's just remarkable numbers. Again, usually it's around 8 to 10%. But when you think about job growth, did you want to say something?
Well, I was going to say, too, we had another company move here from New York after 9/11.
Yes.
And that was a very successful migration. I mean, their employees were very nervous about moving here, but they got here and they loved it. And to Kathy's point, they felt like not only was it a success because they had such a high retention of employees moving here, but they didn't leave. The only complaint I heard is we have terrible water for bagels. That was the only complaint I heard from the New Yorkers.
Bad water for bagels.
Bad water for bagels, yes.
Let's talk to Mayor O'Connell about that, or Scott Potter. So we focus today on a relocation, but when you think about job growth for any community, in general across the country, 70% of job growth for a community comes from existing companies in the market expanding, adding jobs, and 30% come from the companies outside coming in. Now, they work very good together because the ones from out of market keep Nashville in the regional, national, and global headlines and that chatter, but the majority of job growth comes from existing companies adding jobs. That's why our team, it's cheaper to keep a company here than to recruit one. So we work with all of our existing companies to identify any barriers to growth and help them eliminate those barriers to keep this Nashville region going. So maybe next year, if Sharon calls me back, we'll do an existing industry panel and talk about that. We have a few minutes left. Do we have a question? They weren't expecting questions. They looked at me like, oh no. Does anybody have a question? Yes, sir. No.
Okay. We were working with several third-party consulting firms in the city selection process itself. So we had a corporate, relocation provider who was doing the analytics on the city selection itself and bringing us the cities to look at. They had developed individual relationships in the markets that connected us with the initial organization to help us visit the cities. I would say that, at any time during that process, if we had felt that the relationship was not, delivering the level of collaboration, the level of trust, the level of confidence, we had full autonomy to make a change. I would say that what we found here was that the relationship just started on such a strong footing, and there was such a willingness to be open to, kind of the unique demands and the nuances of our needs, that the relationships just deepened, and their commitment to getting us to Nashville was just as high as ours. And so that was the introduction. I would also say we did engage with another third party to do a deep dive city analysis around 30 different factors against every city, everything from growth of white-collar jobs, academic access, migration rates of talent. So we had several consulting firms that were helping us with the process.
Kathy, thank you. Paige, thank you. A round of applause for them.
Thank you all.
Thank you. And who's up next? Oh, here she comes. Yep. Thank y'all.